When you hear the word inheritance, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For most of us, it's money, right? Maybe a house. But what if the legacy we're leaving behind is way bigger, way more complex, and something we're actually building every single day? So let's dig into what that really means. Because that's the question at the heart of it all. It's not about what you'll have in the bank when you're gone. It's about the entire sum of what you pass on. And honestly, the answer might surprise you. Okay, so look at this. This slide really breaks it down. On the left, you've got what we all think of as inheritance: money, property, valuables, the usual stuff. But the source material we're looking at today says the real inheritance is everything on the right. It's the name you leave behind, the relationships or, the conflicts you pass down. Even your health and your life's work. It's a much richer and, frankly, a much more challenging picture to think about. So here's our game plan. We're going to walk through these inheritances in three main categories: the material, the social, and the personal. Then we'll get to what our source calls the ultimate gift, a blessing, before we tie it all together and talk about how we can actually build an intentional legacy. First up, the one we all know, the material inheritance. But it's not just about what you've got. It's really a coin with two totally different sides: the security that comes from property and the heavy burden of debt. The positive side of this is all about providing a foundation, a launch pad. The idea here is that a parent's role is to save up, to create a head start for the next generation. Leaving behind property or some seed money isn't about spoiling your kids. It's about giving them that little bit of security so they can build their own life on solid ground. But the opposite of that, it's just devastating. The source tells this really stark story where a prophet dies and his creditors show up. But they're not there for his stuff. They're there for his children, planning to take them as slaves to pay off the debt. Now, that's an ancient example, sure, but the modern echo is so clear when families are left drowning in medical bills or student loans. Debt isn't just a number. It's a burden that can literally steal the freedom of the people we love most. Okay, so let's shift gears from the material stuff to the social sphere. This inheritance is all about the reputation and the relationships that get passed down, whether we want them to or not. This is about the legacy of your name and sometimes your conflicts. We don't really think of our name as an inheritance, do we? But it's one of the very first things we're given. A good name, one that people associate with integrity and kindness, well, that can open doors for your kid before they even say a word. But a bad reputation, that can stick to a child like a shadow, forcing them to fight battles that were never even theirs to begin with. And it's not just about reputation. We can actually pass down our enemies. This parable from the source makes a pretty chilling point. The tenants had a beef with the owner, the father, but who did they take it out on? His son, the heir. Unresolved conflicts, rivalries, they often don't just die out. They just find new targets in the next generation. All right, and that brings us to our third category, the personal inheritance. These are the kinds of legacies that become physically and professionally a part of our children's lives, from the work they do to the actual health of their bodies. On the positive side, this can be the gift of a vocation. Think of a family business, a skilled trade, or a practice that's passed down for generations. The source points to the ancient example of Aaron, the high priest, whose role and duties went directly to his son. That's a legacy of purpose, skill, and continuity. Pretty amazing. The flip side, though, is inheriting suffering. The source shares this powerful story about Gehazi, a prophet's servant, whose greed led to him being cursed with leprosy. But here's the thing, the curse wasn't just for him, it was for his descendants forever. It's a really dramatic way of showing how our choices, our lifestyle, our unresolved trauma can have real physical consequences that rippled through generations. So we've covered the tangible stuff, the social stuff, the professional, and the physical. But the source material we're looking at sets one inheritance completely apart from all the others. It frames it as the most profound, the most powerful gift a parent can ever give. And that is the inheritance of a blessing. This has nothing to do with money or social standing. It's something much, much deeper. It's an intentional act of speaking hope and purpose and favor directly into your child's life. To really get this, just listen to these words from the patriarch Isaac. He's old, he's near the end of his life, and what's his deepest desire? To give his son a heartfelt blessing. This isn't just some afterthought. It's a deliberate, final act of love. He's literally preparing himself to give a gift that comes from his very soul. So what does that actually look like for us? Well, the source suggests a really simple, powerful model from the story. First, you create an intentional moment. You call them near, you put the phones away. Second, you speak from the heart. You're not reading a script, you're sharing your genuine hopes for them. And third, you frame it in your deepest beliefs, connecting them to something bigger than just themselves. So when you start to put all of these pieces together, this completely new picture of inheritance emerges. It's not something that just happens when a will gets read. No, it's something we are actively building, or maybe dismantling, with the choices we make every single day. So what's the big takeaway here? Your true inheritance is the sum total of your life. It's the name you build. It's the conflicts you either resolve or pass on. It's the health you model and the purpose you show them. But above all, the greatest thing you can leave is not something they can hold in their hands, but something that holds them up, a deliberate, spoken blessing for their future. Your legacy isn't some monument you build at the end, it's the path you walk every single day. So that leaves us with just one final question to think about. Looking at your life, your actions, your words, right now, what legacy are you building today?